So without further ado, I'm sure that you followed the ongoing discourse, concerning the issue of age limit, for admission into the tertiary institution. Of course, whereby the federal government, through the Minister of Education, has proposed that going forward, the age limit for entrance into the university will be from 18 years and above. He cited several examples where that has to be so. And of course, the Senate has also indicated interest, in backing that proposal with relevant legislations. So, Barrister Deji, what do you have to say concerning this?
Thank you very much. The initial skepticism that I have over this matter was because it appears as if we are retrogressing, in my view. Obviously, this is one issue that ought not to be coming up at this time, particularly because of the threshold of rights that is involved, the issue of the fundamental rights of the child to education. And of course, the provision of the Constitution, which did not put any limit or any bar as to the attainment of education, which of course is a fundamental right of a person. And it's as if our government seems to be majoring in the minor. There are plethora of other issues I think should engage their attention concerning education in the country than this issue of whether the entrance into the university should be 18 years or not. There are lots of complexities involved. Obviously, there is a constitutional angle that I mentioned earlier on, and then the barring of people from going to school at the right time. Of course, if a student is qualified to go to university and to perform well in the university, why do you have to put a clock in the wheel of the progress of that student? That's number one. Number two is the question of, if you look at globally today, almost all countries are developing. If you get to most of the Ivy League schools in the EU or in Asia or in America, most of the people you find who are professors, particularly from Asia and all of that, they are usually very young professors. Some of them 25, 27 years old. If you go to MIT, you see a lot of these people. Stanford, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. These are people who are very brilliant, and over the years, they went through the academics, and at an early age, they attained to the height of research. So we are living in a global world where people are developing themselves, where a lot of whiz kids, there are lots of people who are gifted in education, young people. I remember when I was in university, the best student in the architecture department, was a boy of about 12, 14 years. So I don't see why any age limit should be placed on the entrance into university. And of course, we are in a country where you enter the university, you know when you are starting, but you don't know when you are leaving that university because of ASU strike, because of so many complexities. So I don't think it's a proper policy to bring at this point.
So obviously you are against this.
I'm against it, obviously against it.
All right. So Barrister Obioruma, yes. So also in line with the question, so how does this proposed age limit for university admission align with the principles outlined in the Child Rights Act?
Thank you very much. I don't share the view that there should be any form of limit of entrance to university to 18 years for Nigerian students. Those that are proposing that policy don't seem to appreciate a lot of things. Number one, the Child Rights Act gives the Nigerian child a lot of rights, among which is the right against discrimination. Discrimination in this context is denying a child who has done everything and is qualified to enter the university, has passed the UTME, But simply because he or she is below 18 years, you say he or she cannot go to university. That is discrimination against that child. And I know that Nigeria cannot afford to go back to the Stone Age. Globally, the world is moving forward. And we know that there have been instances where the courts, both in Nigeria, in UK, US, have had opportunity to pronounce on the issue of discrimination. When you look at discrimination, it will come into various ways. The case of Government of Education and Rights, where there was discrimination against a certain class of students because of their color. Because they were blacks. And then there were special schools meant for the whites, different from schools meant for the blacks. The Supreme Court had to pronounce that that is discrimination, and it is against the clear provisions of the Constitution that outlawed any form of discrimination, either by way of gender, by color, origin, and all that. Coming to Nigeria, the Constitution has said that there should not be any form of discrimination. The Child Rights House has gone to encapsulate, among other rights of the child, the right against discrimination. Why should that now come at this age in the history of this nation? Two, like my brother has said, in yesteryears, people attend schools, some at early age, some at later age in life. But today, you have children. In fact, I've had cause to know of a young child, a boy, who at the age of 9 was already a PhD older. There are people that are brilliant. So the issue is that limiting the age of students to enter university in Nigeria to 18 years is absurd. It's absurd because assuming a child goes to school and by age 16 is already ready to enter university, you will not ask that child to wait for another 2 years. The question is, what would that child be doing for another 2 years?
Yeah, but
the child may, during that 2 years, because the popular aphorism that an idle mind is the devil's workshop, may engage in activities that are criminal, may join the notorious yahoo and other social vices. And before you know it, the child who has a vision to go to university and come out better, by the time he or she start getting money, may now join those that are saying that education is a scam. That policy is progressive. That policy is anti-progress of the Nigerian child. And this child rights are also give the child the right to development. And that development should be unhindered development. That development should be unpunctuated development. That development should be, and the child should have the right to fully develop in every area of life, including education.
Yeah, but of course, there's been arguments, of course, for this age limit restriction. The Minister of Education have said that some of these younger students are responsible for the issues within the system, that they are immature and not ready, you know, to embrace the vibrant university environment. You know, that they ought to stay in the controlled spaces of their parents instead of, you know, in the vibrant university environment. That has been the argument.
Yes, you see, the fact remains that maybe in the past 20 years, such arguments may fly. But in the present day Nigeria and global trend, you cannot convince me that those that cause problems or hindrances or whatever in the education system are underaged children without proof.
It's not even correct.
Proof. And what is the proof? To come up with a data that you carried out an analysis, a test, and in the course of your analysis, you came up with, maybe you went across universities in Nigeria, then looked at those that the age brackets you have checked, subjected to experimental verifiable tests that can be confirmed or disproved. You can't just wake up one morning and say, yes, the young ones are the ones that are coming.
Now, let me also make a point on what.
Wait, I'm coming. Let me just quickly chip in this.
Is there any data, any verifiable data, experiment, or result that they have come up with to say, yeah, this is these are our findings? There is such one? I don't think there's any. And without any, it just makes speculation. And of course, we cannot build anything on speculation. It has to be on hard facts.
Yes, I just want to chip in this one before you can go on with your.
Yes.
So does this proposed regulation, does it breach or does it have any? Does it breach any of the right of the child?
I've said that already.
Obviously,
I've said that already.
Now, the question of the right.
No, you mentioned the right of the child to education, but it doesn't really.
The Constitution.
The Constitution does not.
The Constitution did not place any limit to the progression or the development of the educational growth of a child. There is no such provision. Everyone is entitled to education, free and affordable education. And once you comply with the provisions or the qualification or the criteria for entrance into the university, which is the examination.
So if the criteria is not inclusive of age, wouldn't
it will be an aberration, because you'll be preventing some people from exercising their right to that extent.
Doesn't the Ministry of Education have the right
to set guidelines? They don't have such right over the rights of people.
To set guidelines?
Yes, they don't have such right. They do not have such right. Just as my good brother have said, is the discrimination. If I have somebody who did an exam with me, he is allowed to proceed to the university, and I'm allowed to stay at home, or I'm prevented from going to the same university. What kind of right? What kind of
but they have set guidelines on other areas, cut-off mark, and so on and so forth.
Cut-off mark is different. That is academic qualification.
Yeah,
if you don't meet up with academic qualification, is different. Most of the people behind this policy.
Because we also, even in election matters, we also see age qualification before you can contest.
That is in election.
Yeah.
Election is a choice, a matter of preference and choice.
We see
it's a matter of choice. That analogy will not fly. That analogy will not fly. The problem is this: you are talking about the right of person. Election is not a right. There's no right involved in election. But you are talking about the fundamental right of a person to be educated, and you are going to be killing innovation. You are going to be killing the creativity of students. And not only that, look at it this way: most of the employers in Nigeria today, they will not employ you once you are above 25 years. They will tell you that you must be between the age of 21 and you must have a first degree, first class, and then with a master's degree and also 3 years experience. Where are you going to get that?
Yeah, Barrister Deji.
Now, let me also tell you the problem again is this, that the question of employability does not depend on how old you are. Now, the other argument that my good brother have just mentioned, that which the minister made, that it is the younger ones that are creating problem in the university, that is fallacious. It's baseless as far as I'm concerned. When we were on campus, most of the people you will find in Aluta who were involved in student unionism were the elderly ones, the elders, the older men. Many of these people entered primary school possibly at the age of 12 years. In those years, many of them, until your hand reaches up to your ears, you cannot be allowed, you cannot be admitted even to primary school. Some of them they got into university at 30. But the world has moved away from all of that.
Yes, Barrister, that you get a point. But Barrister, the point we're trying to clear, because we want our viewers to really get the point, the balance of understand that you've made argument for against that proposed policy. But what we are trying to ask is that doesn't the ministry or the federal government have a right to set guidelines on the requirement for admission into the university? That is the first, because
Okay.
We see in other sectors, for instance, election and other sectors,
Section
where,
1, subsection 4,
where
the
age,
constitution is clear.
where age limits are set, and nobody says that the constitution doesn't. Of course, you have right to vote and vote, but there are guidelines that you must comply, and which is what they are setting. Of course, we understand the fact that you do not agree with that this proposal, but we want to categorically tell us if they have the right to even set guidelines.
Yes, I agree that they have right to set guidelines, to set down policies on admission. But the question is, are they at liberty to set any sort of guideline, whether it is in tandem with the global trend, especially in the area of education? And my answer to that is no, that they must have recourse to what obtains in other countries of the world, especially as Nigeria is a signatory to a lot of international instruments on the rights of the child. There are so many instruments, treaties and so on, that Nigeria is a signatory to. And those instruments like United Nations,
African Charter
article on the rights of the child and the African Charter on Human People's Rights as well. So these are the things they are supposed to look at. And also look at the age limit in other countries. Is there any other country in the world where they want to keep their children away from tertiary institutions until they attain the age of 18? I'm not aware of any. Rather, they are ensuring that their children go to school early. And these people that are making these policies are the same people that
their children are abroad. At a young age, universities.
They send their children abroad where there are no such restrictions. Again, when you come to the issue of early marriage, the law is very clear that no child below the age of 18 should be given out in marriage. And some of these people still give out 13-year-old girls out in marriage. They want to come to something that affects their life. Education. They say no, they need to wait till they attain 18 years of age, which is not in consonance with international treaties.
Okay.
Now,
the
point is
talking
about section 1, subsection 4.
Okay.
Where any law is made by the government that is inconsistent with the rights of fundamental rights in chapter 2 of the constitution, chapter 3 of the constitution, that right becomes inconsistent and it becomes null and void to the extent of that inconsistency. Well, and that right cannot stand. Any particular guideline or policy that places a restriction on the right of persons, that limits the right to enjoy the fundamental right provided by the constitution, such a right, such a particular policy or such a policy is null and void under our constitution.
Yeah, but Barrister Deji, I'm sure that you are aware that we have the educational policy, I think the 4334, that is 6334, that is currently in use.
Yes.
Yes, and you know, with the calculation of
some people have argued that it has always been there.
When you calculate it, you are supposed to be just a Nigerian child with that calculation who have followed through this policy.
Yes.
Ought to be finishing at around 17.
Yes.
Of course, 18 before it gets into university.
The point we have made in that is that some of that particular policy, as of today, is anachronistic. It's no longer a what we call common practice all over the world.
So what would you alternatively suggest? Because the argument from the federal government and Ministry of Education seems to be on maturity. So what alternative would you suggest?
How do you determine maturity? There are people who are 21 years old, but they still behave like children.
For them to solve this issue, because that seems to be where they are looking at it from.
Let me say this. The university system has a way of weeding off elements that ought not to be there. Either in terms, if you talk about the protest that the minister is afraid of, all right? When the protests, Anuta, that the younger ones, they are always responsible for protests on campus and all of that. That kind of argument, that line of opinion, you find that it's not valid in the campuses. Most of the young people on campus, they concentrate on their course, on their studies, more than the older men who are the student union leaders. on campuses, and those who are maybe doing master's program on campuses. And the fact that you have younger people on campus does not mean that in any such campus there will be uprising or protest because there are young people there. There is no basis for that kind of thing. It's illogical. It's unreasonable. There is no fact behind it. And also the question that government had already made a provision that at least you must, before you enter the university, you must be an age, you must be of 18 years. It's not a law. It's a guideline. It's a guideline for the university administrators to say, okay, this should be the progression of a child. But what we are saying is that you have situations where some intelligent and well-skilled are able to cope with the academic.
Where on the age they finished as best students
some of them in first class,
and we are not able
and
to get
very
admission.
well.
I'm seeing 16 years finishing as the best, I think, last 2 years.
Yes.
And they were not able
so
to
why should they be restricted from making progression? That's the issue. Why should they be prevented?
Now,
okay.
Yes, like I said earlier, that policy, you see, will infringe on the rights of the child. Apart from the right to education, right to development, and right against discrimination, it will compound the problem that the minister appears to be overlooked, because the attitude or the posture of the ostrich is trying to bury its head when the mounting problem is that already in the educational system in Nigeria there's already a big problem. And what's the problem? The universities are not enough to absorb the teeming students that are seeking for admission. Look at the number of people that stand for the
1.9 million.
Yes. And look at the people that pass, and next year the number will increase or double.
And then almost 70 wouldn't get admission.
Almost 70 will not get admission. They are thrown into the society now, and that is compounding. What I expect the minister to do now is to sit down and find a solution to this. Students, Nigerian students, are ready to go to university, but they are being denied admission, not because academically they are not qualified, but because of extra policies. Some say
outdated policies.
Yes. So the questions will be that what is the government expected to do? The government need to look inwards. Is it to approve more universities? Is it to have a way of absorbing, because already there's a backlog of students seeking for admission, and some of them after seeking for JAMB for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years,
yes,
they now believe that there's no point going to university anymore. And that is not good for the future of this nation. It is not good. What government needs to do and do as a matter of urgency is even to reduce the age limit for entering to the university. Like you reminded us, was it last year or last 2 years, the best student after the examination, the JAMB exam, was a 16-year-old child, and that child was denied admission. I don't know how it ended, but that is wrong, very wrong. That is very wrong. The best student. So upon what basis you now tell that child, okay, because you are not yet 18 years, you cannot enter university? When that child will have that
with people of 18 years.
By 18 years, that child would have been in second year.
It's not even sure to get the admission when he becomes 18. Or to replicate that feat.
So the point is reduce it from 16 to maybe 15. Or give room for make it 15, give room for those that are geniuses, give room for them to enter.
Yes, that point brings me to the fact that so many people have argued that regulating an age limit should not even be a government concern. Abroad, they allow the universities to take these policies. Some people have argued that there is over concentration of policies for the central. You should, in the principle of federalism, you should allow some of these bodies to make their own bodies and their own principles and guidelines. Because in US, most universities determine their admission guidelines on take 15s or take 14s or take 16 and whatever. So what do you have to say concerning that?
Yes, it's precisely what we are saying, that the government should concern itself with matters that are
important,
more important than saying until you attain the age of 18 you cannot enter into university. Like you said, in overseas universities are the ones that use their discretion to determine who is eligible and who is not eligible. And over there, the criteria is transparent. There are not considerations that are out of the way. They are clear, transparent considerations. That is why Nigerian students, when they go abroad, these restrictions are not there. So what is important is that government should leave the universities to do all those things, and also try not to muzzle the universities in the terms of what they can do, and at the end of the day affecting the students indirectly. For example, there is a policy that the number of students that must go to the law school from universities must not exceed a certain percentage or number from from the universities.
From each university.
From each university. And so if as a university you have students, let's say 150 students that are ready and able, because they have completed their academic program in university, but that university is expected to bring only 50 students because of the quota. Now, the other ones will not have to wait. There are still more students that are coming. So, what is the way out? Look at it. How will you now make the best thing is to find a way to ensure that these students are not left behind. Absorb them and let their progression, their development, their right, because it's a right encapsulated in the law, the Child Rights Act. They have a right to development. They have a right to education. And they have a right not to hinder in any of these things. So, was it last year, one of the universities was sanctioned because the student admitted more than the number of students expected for admission into the faculty of that university. This thing should not be. Okay. So, it is what is necessary is that if you say there is the number of people on the dining table and the food available, that the food is not enough for all of them, what you need to do is not to eliminate or kill some of the people so that the remaining ones can eat. No, find a way of increasing the quantity of food. The government, the minister, must solve the problem of education in terms of giving access to education, access to development, access to information to the Nigerian child. We will be wondering why some parents send their children abroad, those that cannot afford them, UK, US, Canada, go to even Ghana and some other African countries that in years and years, those were the ones coming to Nigeria to learn. Because here they have policies that allow the child to enter and gain admission and then come out in flying colors. And if you take a look at the statistics, all those that have been coming out with distinctions in the universities in recent times, because that are young students that are not yet concerned about things like marriage or children and so on. Somebody who is already married in the university has a lot of things to think about.
All right.
But the young child is focused. So that policy must be killed, must be nipped in the bud. Should not be allowed to see the light of the day.
All right.
Now, let me just also...
Okay, just chip it before moving to the next
now,
topic.
if Nigeria has a population of over 280 million people, and if you look at the people that are looking for education in Nigeria today, even the university that we have today cannot contain them. That's why Nigeria is a destination point for most of the Ivy League universities abroad, in the UK, in Canada, in America. Now we are creating a situation where you will further restrict the quality of manpower that you are going to have for a nation like this with large population of people who wants to be educated. I don't think that policy is right. So government should jettison it and leave the issue to the people that want to go to school.
All right. Thank you, Barrister Deji. The point is well noted. The government should concentrate on more pressing needs concerning the reforms in the educational sector.